Grazie mille.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Temperatura Zonta. We're now going to talk about new technology for mobility, sustainability, electrical mobility. I think we're in the brink of an absolutely radical change, moving from endothermic engines to electronic ones, and that's what we're going to be hearing about now. We're going to be having a presentation on electrical mobility. So could I just reiterate, colleagues, the need for brevity. Once we get to 7 minutes, I'm going to start waving my hand to suggest that you wind up, because we would like to hear from everybody. Good morning. I am one of the partners who's been involved in setting up CS Group, which owns the Sharengo brand, and we deal with car sharing. I'd like to talk to you briefly about some of the concepts underlying this whole car sharing operation, and also tell you a bit about where we're aiming to go. You know what the backdrop is. The backdrop is really the fact that the population is burgeoning in our major cities. Some 50% of the global population, it is thought, lives in the bigger cities, and these numbers are only going to get worse over the course of the next few years. Therefore, something needs to be done. And given that backdrop, we need to be very restrictive in our approach, and we need to define restrictive targets in order to deal with these challenges. These targets are to a great extent political as well as economic. We need to manage CO2, and we need to manage indeed all damaging greenhouse gases. We need to reduce by 10 grams per kilometre the CO2 output. And you'll see here what our graphs are. We need to shift rapidly from internal combustion engines using petrol to electric vehicles, which will be charged with electricity, and they will either be hybrid vehicles or fuel cells in the first instance. If the thresholds are 40 grams, which is what we expect, therefore less stringent, we expect that endothermic engines will continue to be with us until 2025 at least, and they will be the predominant share of the market, after which, after 2025 that is, we will move over more to hybrid or fuel cell vehicles. And the worst analysis is to have 21 grams by 2021 and 40 grams of CO2 as the guideline target. This would lead us to a situation which would be rather different. Endothermic engines would be the norm up until 2035 and would indeed be the majority until then, only giving way to hybrid or hybrid or electronic vehicles by then. So urban mobility is a huge challenge for us, and it is absolutely vital that we produce vehicles that use as little energy as possible. Energy consumption in transport is about 50% of all demand, and the local emissions have a very adverse impact on the environment in the cities. So the strategy that the local authorities and the major cities alike are using in order to try to tackle some of these problems is essentially to reduce the access of vehicles to cities, to try to have an emphasis on using public transport, to have congestion charging, limits to access to city centres, or new modes of transport such as car sharing. Now, if you look at the next slide, you'll see that car sharing is in fact quite important in terms of people moving about. If you look at this slide, you will see flexibility down the vertical side of the graph and distance on the horizontal one. So for short distances, obviously, bicycles are ideal, taxis are feasible. For major distances, even beyond where public transport can go, you can obviously rent a car, but you could equally use car sharing. So it encompasses the whole range from short to long distances. Of course, what we need to aspire to is electric car sharing, and this would be considerably more green. That's why we're focusing on that. So we therefore need to enable the public administrations to cut environmental pollution in the city centres by promoting electronic car sharing. This would also give them a very positive image, but the main point obviously is to tackle the environmental challenges and also to stimulate demand for electric vehicles in the market. So at the moment, electric car sharing can only resolve some of the major challenges that we have. For short-term and medium-term distances, it's realistic. It's mainly used in town because small cars are easy to park and because the battery life is not a problem, and they're mainly used during the day so that they can be recharged at night. So these are all, there are issues here which we need to address as a company. But in any event, we were trying to be realistic about what we could achieve on the basis of what we could produce. And what we can produce currently is an electronic vehicle that can cover short distances. So we need a small vehicle, we need an electric vehicle, one that we can charge, and it is obviously not realistic to imagine conversion of all traditional cars to become electric. We actually have to start with new electric cars. Now, smart cars fit the bill, but we also have to deal with the fact that we can't, if you don't have a very big car, it won't be able to go very far. 125 kilometers would probably be its radius, and there are storage issues because a small car has, albeit low consumption, 0.08 per kilometer, but it also has very low storage. So we have had some experience with all of this, and we've come up with a system which we call car sharing free floating, which means you can pick up the car where you want and you can leave it off where you want. As Fabio was saying at the beginning, you need to have the technology in place to allow this, and this presupposes an app. So we need to have an app which enables people to find where the closest car is and to reserve it. And the vehicle can't be 3 kilometers away, at the most 1 kilometer, which even is too much. Ideally, 2 or 3 minutes walk is far enough, and if somebody can access the app and can walk along there, if they can find out the rate and the availability of the car on the internet, then that will be a service which will actually appeal and be successful. You need obviously to have cars available too. So where the populations are most dense, you need to have an appropriate business plan. We've worked very closely on this business plan. We don't really have much to go on because there is no previous blueprint of electronic car sharing. So we are starting ex novo. In 2010 we started doing some studies, but as I say, we had virtually nothing to go on, and we have started introducing cars into the various urban areas since 2015. So electronic car sharing is actually a very new thing to Europe. France has some electric cars, but otherwise our company is the one that has the highest fleet of cars. We have 1,500 cars in Italy, and that's the highest apart from France. So car sharing should provide a lot of advantages. Let's have a look and see what they could be. First of all, it should cut the actual use of cars. It should cut the use of petrol. It should reduce environmental pollution. Not just air quality, the adverse impact on air quality, but there should be fewer vehicles on the road. Every car sharing vehicle should replace 7 regular vehicles. That's our ballpark figure, and on the basis of which we're predicating our calculations. And in a city such as Milan, a city could be used by 10 different people. A vehicle could be used by 10 different people during the course of a day. We would also expect a decrease in noise pollution because they're quiet, and the costs should fall. So first of all, the reduction in the consumption of petrol and oil. The average utilization rate is only 14%, so a huge amount of energy is wasted. Pollution, an average car emits 2.3 tons of carbon dioxide and 2.81 tons of other harmful greenhouse gases every year. Time reminder. Yes, okay, I'll speed up. As to our operation, well, we set up the company. It became operational in 2015, as I've just said. We have 1,500 cars on the road between Milan, Rome and Florence. Those are our main centres of operation. How do we work? Well, we have quite a wide-ranging and differing clientele, different times of day, different types of people. We use apps, and we have a series of algorithms which we have studied carefully. The whole system, and that includes the software, has been developed by our company. We have taken on about 80 young people, average age 24, to work for our company. And they're really almost exclusively working on software. That's our main area of focus. I will skip some of the next slides due to shortage of time, but the reason that we actually are so determined to continue is that we can genuinely see a future for car sharing in Italy. We can see that it's being successful, and we think that we can expect a 32% increase per year, year on year, not only in Italy but globally. These are the figures that we can point to in Italy, so we are convinced that this is a fast-growing business. By the end of 27, we will expect to have 10,000 cars, and then our next target is 30. But we're continually working on innovation. The reason for this being that our business model is new necessarily. We are fortunate enough to have on board the ability to generate 11 or 17 kilowatt hours. Therefore, we could have a computer on board. So we've looked at a mobile matrix for the city, so we can equip the car with a transducer, and so we can also use CCTV, and overall we can actually provide an excellent service to the citizen. We can provide a lot of information using big data, which can be input into our cars but also collected and passed on. So basically it's a smart car. It's a smart car that enables car sharing in a smart city, and it will have environmental sensors. It will enable connectivity. I did want to go on and talk about driverless cars, but I don't have time to do that. But in 2018, my expectation is that we will see the beginning of car sharing with driverless cars, because we will use the app, which will and then click on it, and then the car will actually come to us rather than us having to go and get it. And then by 2030, the car will be completely self-driven. It will not just turn up on my doorstep, and it will drive me without any input from me. So we are convinced that this is the future. We think that electric car sharing is the way to go. We're already well along the way. We think this is an initial major step towards a bright future for us, and we feel that we can get a lot of people on board with this, and we can all contribute towards having a much smarter and greener life and lifestyle. Thank you very much.
La nostra decorazione. Prego.
Allora,
Grazie mille al dottor Ettore Chimenti.